one of my clients, and again, I'm going to get into the practical, like what did we do for the most part. I can't, share every little secret, of course. You got to hire me for those things, but I'll talk about the bigger stuff in terms of how we got there. But from a year-over-year perspective, again, this is just one client. I have many clients, but this is a very, very high spenders, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month client. And we saw last month compared to the prior, so just year over year, November 1st to the 30th, we spend significantly more on Google Ads because they trust me and they expected, which I hope that they do, that we're going to get better results. And this is me competing with myself, ladies and gentlemen, because I have such a great retention rate. Generally, I like that. It's fun, right? Like it's not to be too braggy here, but usually when I'm competing with other agencies, year over year, I always just expect to do better. I'm just like, well, they weren't really doing things well. They didn't really have the data analysis skills, whatever. Now you've got a data science fueled guy getting in there and getting hands on. But this was actually me competing with myself. So this was fun to see. So we spent 46% more against hundreds of thousands. So it's not a very small amount here for most advertisers. We made 51% more revenue. MER ended up pretty much the same as from a month standpoint. It's ended up being close to a 4x. So it was just fantastic, right? So we essentially got 51% more revenue, spend up 46%. I'm just going through the numbers right now. My favorite thing, because this client is very growth oriented. Again, that tends to be the e-com people that come to me. It's not like they just want let's just keep things the same. They're like, how can we push? How can we activate our data and get things better? Our new customer revenue went up 80% year over year with that 50% increase to spend. So that is huge for us. Really, really big numbers. So it just in terms of practicality, guys, like what are some of the things that we did? We advertised, we started pushing earlier than we did in past years. So we ramped up mid-October. We also increased some of our prices prior to November to help balance the profitability issues we usually see in November when we start running deeper discounts. So that was a big influence. We also did a lot of product development throughout the year that certainly helped. And I think more than anything else, we had a good focus on MER globally as opposed to channel by channel. So, we pushed a little bit more aggressively on social channels. We expected that to have a big impact on organic and direct traffic as well as PPC efforts. And it was just that global omni-channel approach that really helped. So we weren't just narrowly focusing on how is Facebook doing, how is Google Ads doing in a vacuum. We were looking at the global picture, really helped build confidence and continuing to fuel the fire in terms of budgets and revenue. So I think being more confident, having the data to support that, seeing past years how well that worked for us to fuel the fire earlier in the year or earlier prior to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So certainly that, like I said, Project Mallet, omni-channel global focus is here. And obviously just increases to measurement. I know every year I try to get better. I know you do too, Michael, in terms of your data analysis skills, whatever it is. So I also feel like my own analysis skills was helpful in being able to illuminate some of the things that we have seen in past years of, what if we ramped it up this much by this time? What if we did this? Kind of weigh the pros and cons of those things and essentially just say, okay, we can feel this confident for the most part that if we increase spend by here, we can expect to get X amount of revenue, do a bunch of projection models, all that fun, nerdy stuff that I like to do. It built a lot of confidence in spending more. So I think all those things helped. We didn't do, a dramatically bigger promotion than we did last year. So, even if I looked at this pessimistically and said, oh, well, we just did a bigger promotion, that wasn't the case. I think all those things played a big part. So I know that's kind of a word salad of different strategies and tactics, but at the end of the day, Michael, and I know you could speak to this, at the end of the day, it comes down to the business 101s. Do we have a product people want? Is the market hot for this product? Are we hitting the target audiences, our defined target audiences? Are we communicating to Google our business objectives in a way that's going to work? It's not all about the weird hack that you found on LinkedIn. It's doing the right things right and really focusing your efforts on those things.
Yeah, man. Dude, awesome work.
Yes,
the other thing I just want to note for a lot of people who watch this is, whilst everything you've said is impressive, the thing I find most impressive, I know it sounds so it doesn't sound impressive by the numbers, but if you really understand data, you do. 46% increase in spend, 51% increase in revenue. That is really hard to do because it's not just like you linearly spend more money and you just make it's just all linear.
Yeah,
Usually when especially over hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in a very competitive time, that is actually very hard to do. So mate, good
crazy.
work on that, because
Thank you.
all the things you've said were amazing, but that's what really caught my ear. And
Yeah,
obviously the new customer numbers, but the
yeah,
fact that you was able to scale by 46% in 1 month or year on year and have revenue up 51%, that is not easy. Now,
it's massive.
maybe throughout the year, you've been able to just kind of keep growing it to that point, but even year on year,
Yeah.
it's still a big shift,
Mm-hmm.
because that
Absolutely.
significantly shows bigger shifts in the business because cost per clicks increase. So maybe you could spend 46% and have the revenue be the same.
Yeah.
It could be that you
Good
have
point.
a lot of things on sale and you could have sold more items at a lower cost, but still a higher percentage in revenue compared to this spend increase. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's really impressive. Good
Exactly.
work,
Yeah, I
mate.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Yeah,
the other thing I
and
just want to
go
quickly
ahead,
ask
please.
is with the new customer numbers, where do you pull those from? Do you get them from the back end of Shopify? Are you using Google's data? Where do you pull that data from?
Yeah, so attribution tools that are linked up to our Shopify in this
Okay,
case. Yep. So it's
cool.
real numbers. We're cross verifying those with CMS, and then in terms of attribution, that utilizes machine learning to attribute credit to whatever channel
Yeah,
it feels is most appropriate based on our own data.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
Um, cool. Any more? Oh no, that was humble brag.
that
I
was the
want to talk about
humble
some
brag.
strategy today, but I'll let if we. Do you want to add anything else to the end of this?
Oh, just gonna say, because I know a lot of people and a lot of content focus on like, okay, what do we do during Black Friday, Cyber Monday? But then it's like, now what? In the place that we are now, it's like, right,
Yeah,
what do we do now? Like, okay, so everything just went up, and now everything's kind of
yeah,
tanking, unsurprisingly, and we're kind of trying to build back an audience for maybe a late Christmas sale or something like that. So I just say, make sure you guys are really looking at your numbers carefully. Michael asked a really good question, which is where are you getting that data from? I think that's very, very underrated, and asking, where are you getting that? Are you looking at GE4, Google Analytics? Are you looking at Google Ads, the interface itself, in terms of attribution that Google credits itself? That's a really important thing in this time of the year. Don't just look at one source. I think it's important to kind of balance from everything, and really try to learn more about attribution models, and what are they telling you, and how much can you trust that model, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Obviously, the more data has, the more you confident you can feel into it. But I just want to say very, very quickly, as you're ramping down your spends, which is going to be expected. I do get that question sometimes in consulting, is like, what do we do immediately after? Or do we just cut spends in half? Like, how do you figure out the percentage to do it? I tend to try to track somewhere between what you're seeing in terms of conversion rates. So let's say conversion rates drop 60%, but those are still normal for that day of the week, outside of major promotions and seasonality. Have we fallen back down to normal levels, or have things really dropped below that? You got to find sort of a healthy in between to drop those spends, because you don't want to just completely kill the account and
yeah,
wait until that Christmas sale. So it is very tricky. There's no one size fits all for anybody. I tend to say, hey, if it goes down 60%, this is a really rough way to do it, right? So if it goes down 60%, you don't have the tools to really analyze this at a deeper level. Maybe try dropping things like 30, 40%. I wouldn't recommend going all the way to 60%. That might be a little
mm,
bit too dramatic, but you got to look at your own data and make sense of it, right? And at the end of the day, that's
yeah,
where a lot of the skill set comes from as a PPC analyst, is that. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I think a lot of people get
yeah.
lost in like, crap, everything's going down. MER has dropped, ROAS has dropped, CPA has gone way up, CAC has gone way up. What do we do? Do we just,
Mm,
drop everything down 80%? Do we go back to the budget we were spending, leading up to November? Again, you got to look at your own data,
yeah.
but I would say find like a healthy balance in the in between, and then kind of go from there. Give it a couple days, ramp it down more if you need to, etc. But anyway, go ahead. I want to hear the
No, I think,
strategy in
and
mind,
just to add on to that, man, because I think that's
please.
really important is that high, and then it goes, well, what's next? And we have this with a lot of clients in any industry, being it lead generation or e-commerce. There's the two things you need to do all the time. Number one, speak to the client. Make sure that you're in tune with what, like, rather than them just throwing at you, or you even just making up stuff in your mind. Oh, it's dropping down now. It's catastrophizing, whatever. Speak to them with what's going on in their business, the new sales cycle, what's going on, because they may expect it, they may not. And if they don't expect it, then they're going to be like hitting you up or crazily. Or if they're like, no,
Yeah,
no, we expect this, then you might just need to just tune it down a little bit. The other thing, which is like the most Simple thing, which is most people watching this podcast are probably like, it goes against this, but it's like, use your own data. When you come to podcasts like this, you're always listening for a strategy. What do I do post like this? Or what do I do before Black Friday? Or what do I do in general? You've got to benchmark your own data.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this case, you don't want to be benchmarking against last month's data. So maybe you look at the average of the 3 months before November and see
Mhm.
what the average benchmark is in CTRs, cost per clicks, conversion rates. Now, I know it's a different time of the year, but just benchmark that maybe every month. Just know what the averages are at the same time last year in early December. So
December,
that way
exactly.
you're never like, just don't compare against November. But then
Yes.
once you've got those own benchmarks, when you speak to the client or even review the data yourself, you're actually knowing what you're actually comparing against. Because if you're
Yes.
like, oh, do I, decrease spend by 50%? There's no why behind it. Versus if you look at last year and you're like, look, our ROAS last year was 4 in early December. Yes, it was 7x in November last month, but we're already at 4.5 this month. Like, we're actually seem to be good year on year against our own benchmarks.
Hmm.
Let's just keep going, communicate it
Yep.
to the client, and things will work out. I think
Yes.
that's the biggest challenge. People don't communicate and just fear that by asking questions or suggesting things, they'll look like an idiot. But you're an idiot if you don't. That's the irony.
I
And then,
agree.
secondly, just not using the data that's readily available for you. If it's just
Yeah.
in platform data, just use that. If it's offline data, use that. But
Yep.
actually use your own data to set your own benchmarks.
Yeah, and guys, also don't forget, this is a good time to jump on. There's a potential competitive edge in your market. That sometimes, not always.
Yeah.
Check out your auction insights. Good time if you kind of sleep on those insights that are there. Check out auction insights. Maybe a lot of advertisers have just they're not very data driven. I mentioned this to some of my clients. Like a lot of our competition, they just drop spends. They don't even think about it. It's just like,
Yeah.
Black Friday, Cyber Monday is over. Let's just like drop everything 100%. And I'm like, guys, this is a great opportunity
Yeah.
for those like procrastinators that still want a discount. They understand they kind of missed the boat on the big discount, but we're still running something. We
Yeah.
can might be able to get the cheapest CPCs we could get all year with this type of traffic level, this type of interest
Yeah.
level. It's not like everybody buys in those 4 days or whatever it is between Black Friday and Cyber
Yeah.
Monday. Some
I
people are going to lag
didn't.
behind. They're busy. There you go.
Yeah. I
And
didn't.
we don't want to lose those people. Like, keep hitting them with ads. Don't just kill
Yeah.
your spend and then let that go to the advertiser B who
Yeah.
decided, let's just stay aggressive. MER's good,
Mm.
CAC is good. Let's just keep this going, right? And we'll kind of test day by day and we'll see how we need to adjust. So don't forget that. There's some competitive edges that are available to those that are willing to risk a little bit more.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
Okay.
Corey, great work, man. So let's keep moving
Thanks.
forward because we've got to
Yes.
get through some awesome stuff. So,
Of course.
um,